Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And in today's stream, I am going to be working on some more of my animation. I finished the jogger's body, and so now I'm just going to be working on her head, her face, and her hair. So, what I've decided to do is I decided to use the technique of separation. For those of you who may or may not know, usually in animation, what animators will do is they will separate certain objects for ease of animation and to save time. So the head, the hair, and the eyes, those three things may be on separate layers. Usually the body and the face are done on separate layers as well. So that's what I'm doing right now. That is actually a pretty big brush size, so I think I'm going to set it to maybe a 2. Oh, yes, that is much better. I forgot to add the separate frames, so let me just go in here, add a few frames, and then I can start drawing the head proper. And as you can see, at least by the speed at which I'm drawing, separating the items is actually a really good time saver because it allows the artist, the animator, to work through different sets and different portions of animation quickly. If I were to have just animated every little thing, including the face, this probably would take me even longer, like possibly even entire months. Now, there are actually pros and cons to animating every little thing on a single frame. That does sell a sort of, I want to say, emotion or feeling because you're drawing every little thing on a frame. It sort of adds its own sort of emotion, character, dimension to it. And depending on how consistent you draw, that can also have different effects for the animation as well. The inconsistency can actually sell a sort of mental state of a scene. The scene might come off as more chaotic, or I want to say, what's the proper word for it? And so the reason why I'm actually drawing the ear as well as the head is because I plan on using multiple frames for the hair. So, like the bangs and the top of the head is going to be the frontmost layer. Then you're going to have like the side pieces of hair that are going to appear underneath the top, but sort of like to the left or right. Then I have the back of the head to do. And each of those pieces are going to have their own sort of difficulty or caveats when drawing, because you have to keep in mind the whole of the head, but also understand that you are drawing different segments of the hair on different places and areas. And also, when you're drawing the head, you sort of have to. What's the word? It escapes me at the moment. When you're drawing line art and when you're drawing hair, you have to keep in mind the whole, not just the segment or the piece of hair that you're working on. Because hair is a whole thing. Yes, there are multiple strands of hair, but at the same time, usually hair goes the same relative motion. Like if you were to run or walk and then stop, then because your hair is lighter, the momentum would have it keep moving forward until the opposite force, which is you stopping, will actually pull your hair back into form. When it comes to animating, at least the smaller details, I will say that there is a justifiable amount of physics that goes into art and animation. And it's not like you have to be a physics major. You don't have to be. But if you are going into animation, I would just recommend you may want to take a physics course, at least one. Like in I mean not in high school. In college, you have like prerequisite courses and you also have like required courses to graduate. And so, at least for my college, this might not be for all colleges, but in mine, we were required to take, I think it was like 2 or 3 sciences and then one lab. So, physics was actually one of the science courses I took because when I was still an animation major, or at least an intended major, a lot of my upperclassmen told me that physics is going to help you. It's not like you're going to constantly be calling on physics. It's more so like you're going to want to have that knowledge of physics in the back of your mind when you are animating something. Again, pros and cons. So right now I'm trying to get her ear right. So essentially what I'm going for is if you look at proportions, the top of your ears are aligned. I mean, yeah, like the top of your ears are at the very least where your ear connects to the side of your head is in line with your pupil and it's in line with the middle of your eye. So that is what I'm trying to sort of align and get into position. When I draw females, you'll actually notice that for female characters, their chins are pointed or they only have a slight curvature, whereas when I draw males, their chins are flat and their jaws are more angular and pointed. Let me actually zoom out for a second. And what I'm going to do is, I will say that, okay, this head is good, and that head is good. And this is where I sort of begin to veer off course, where her head is getting higher than it should be. So I'm actually going to move this down and over some. This is good. Usually one of the bad habits I have is sort of like I want to say overcompensating when I'm drawing an object that is meant to be going closer to when I'm drawing an object that is supposed to be coming closer to the audience. I have a habit of lengthening the neck in an attempt to sell a closer view. It's a bad habit, but it's nothing too daunting or too, what's the proper word? Unforgivable, I guess. And so right now I'm actually checking the proportions. You can't see this, but I'm using my drawing pen to measure the height of the head and try to align it with the sternum. Because one of the concepts that we learn in figure drawing is that the body on average is about, what was the proper word? Like 5 head heights long. So you have the size of your head, and then it goes from the bottom of your chin to your sternum, then from your sternum to the top of your pelvis, to the top of your groin, and then it goes from the bottom of your groin to the top of your knee, and then from the bottom of your knee to your ankle. So on average, the body is about 5 head heights tall or 5 head heights long. And then from that, you have small spaces or small areas where they're equal to either like half a head height or 1/4 a head height. And so when you're animating, or at the very least when you are drawing multiple things in a sequence, you do actually have to keep some semblance of proportions in the back of your mind. And when you're sort of rough sketching, you do also have to keep proportions in the back of your mind. Because whether an object is moving or coming closer or farther away, you do in fact need to adjust for those things. And I will be honest, I will say that probably the hardest or maybe the most time consuming part of animation is really just those segments where there's little for you to separate or where there's little for you to divide in. Like when there's a new motion in every single frame, so you have to draw the entire body doing something. And it's actually going to save you even more time to draw the entire body rather than dividing it, because then there's just too much to account for and things get too separated to where it may in fact affect the quality of the final product. I meant to zoom in. My bad. And again, I'm actually going to want to bring this down a little bit, and I may actually want to end up rotating it some. So I may actually put the anchor point right here and sort of move it up some. Then I'll move it down some again. Yeah, there actually is a bit of a rule you learn in animation is they usually tell you to do the body first, then add the face and the hair later because in practice it actually does take you less time to do the head and the face than it does with the body. Because in animation, if you actually notice and pay close attention, there's a lot of sneaky things they can hide with hair and like the positioning of the head. Like, you wouldn't notice areas like this. Like, places in areas where the head sort of just abruptly disconnects or connects with the head. You wouldn't notice like different things with the hair. It's just, and how I'm saying it, it may sound sleazy, but it's honestly not because time, sadly, time is a factor and time is a thing that needs to be adjusted for. You can't just painstakingly draw every single little thing because you have other projects, you have other things that need to be done and need to get done. And that's just a thing that all animators do. Maybe not all animators, they either like gloss over it or they don't admit it, but they do have like hidden tactics in order to hasten their animation process. Like, there's a reason why Adobe Animate and other products have this gray border that you can draw over and hide stuff in and do little things to where you don't have to draw every single little thing. It's really meant to benefit the animator. It's meant to benefit the animator as well as the audience too. Now it's time for me to work on the eyes. And when you're working on animation, though this may look strange or weird, it also helps to actually hide layers, at least hide certain layers, because it helps you not be overwhelmed. And this is actually something that is, I want to say, subconscious is the best word to describe it, but when you see a lot of lines, it almost confuses you, which is why there are tools to hide layers or alter the opacity of certain things, because you may accidentally, I want to say, like you may jump, so to speak. When you're drawing something, you may jump, or you may overcompensate, or you may try to, or you may think you filled something in when in actuality you didn't. So, to ensure the quality and to ensure that the animation maintains some sort of order to it, to ensure that you don't deviate too much, it can be a benefit to hide certain layers. And so, what I chose to do is I am hiding the body because I want to make sure that when I'm drawing the eyes, I don't shift too much or I don't mess up somewhere. That's also why playing with brush size also helps, because things are, well, different sizes. Everything looks different. Your eyes are gonna look smaller than what your head looks like. That's just a given. So I've changed the size of my brush to 2, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to draw the outside or the border of the eye. I'll actually go back into these frames and draw the iris and the pupil and the lens on a different location, on a different, not location, on a different occasion. Apologies for that little slip of the tongue. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get a good angle and size for my brush. I want to set the center of the eye about right here. I am going to delete this later. But essentially this is going to serve as a bit of a guidelines for me so I don't deviate too much. So what I'm then going to do, I'm going to do that. I sort of want to give a, what's it called? I want to give a sort of personality to her eyes. So it's 45, 90, and 90 plus 45 is like 135, I think. Okay, that did not go as I had planned. So, real quick, I am going to select this. I'm going to use my tool to move it down some. That is a somewhat better location. Now I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to make a duplicate. Edit. Modify. Transform. Flip vertical. That's wrong. A bit cheap, but hey, it's for the sake of the animation as a whole. just taking a second to what's it called? Reflect. Just taking a little break. This is actually taking less time than I expected, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm sure something's gonna happen. Like, I might end up doing the nose, and then, like, the eye is gonna appear over the nose or something like that. Anyway, if something does happen, then I'll just face it when it happens. Hmm. I will say I don't have much to talk about, at least not right now. Nothing's really gone on. Like, everything's been pretty okay. I've just been working on my animation and pretty much nothing more. I have kind of slowed down on it, and that's kind of a bad thing. Of course, I haven't like lost my drive for working on this teaser or my show. In fact, things are just, I don't know, hitting me for some reason. Like, I've yet to get a job, and that's daunting because it's like, am I just not good enough? Or I know getting a job takes time. Like, of course, I know that. I just hate, I shouldn't say hate. Hate is a strong word. I just don't like how everything is taking so long. I'm afraid that like like I might not get a job or I might fail. And of course, I guess I shouldn't be too hard on myself. Like, also, I do think that we're in the middle of a recession, maybe. I haven't read much, not read. I haven't, like, heard much from the news, but I do think that we're in some type of recession. So that's probably affecting the job market, too. I mean, I just see a lot of people who are in college or who have just graduated college and they want a job, they want to work, they just haven't gotten a job yet. And it's this strange thing where they want like 10 years of experience for an entry level job. And it could, and I'm not gonna lie, it could actually be a combination of things. Like, they don't just want you to have experience, like with the software, they might want you to have people experience and other sorts of things. It's just, how do you expect people to, how do you expect to have people if there are just so many requirements? And of course, there needs to be requirements. You need to vet people for a job. I don't think you should just hire somebody for no reason. But at the same time, like, there could be someone with like 10, 20 years of experience and they'll do the bare minimum. But like a new start who's just breaking into the industry, they could do 110 things. Shit, I hate when that happens. I don't know if you heard that sound, but I'm just adjusting my headphones. My ears are starting to get a bit, I wouldn't say chafed, more like, whatever. It's whatever. I'm fine. So now I'm gonna have to start animating the eyes slowly closing. And this is a good scene because the in-betweens are already fairly fast and more spaced out amongst each other, despite being animated on threes. So that's good. Let me actually see something. I'm going to zoom out and I want to look at the heads and animations holistically. Yeah, this actually shouldn't take me long. What else can I talk about while I'm working on this? Mm, honestly, I don't know what to talk about. I don't want to spoil the overarching show. And as for the world building, I've sort of talked about it in previous streams. Mm, I guess I could probably talk about and explore the reason why I'm working on a show this early in my career. So I will preface this by saying that I just graduated maybe like a month or two ago. It was over in June when I graduated. And so even before I graduated in June, I've already been applying for jobs, and literally nothing and literally nowhere I applied accepted me. I maybe only got like one or two interviews. They either leave my application on view or they say, sorry, we're looking for somebody else, or sorry, you didn't make the cut. So at present, there's honestly nothing else for me to do. And I have, in fact, tried to apply to places like Best Buy, and and I've tried to apply to places like Best Buy and Walmart, but even freaking Best Buy rejected me. Like, how do you get rejected from Best Buy of all places? And it was an inventory job that I took, which doesn't even account for me like talking to people or interacting with people. It was just like stacking boxes, and they still rejected me. So it's like there's almost nothing for me to do, which is a horrible thing. And that's really what I've noticed is there are a lot of people who don't have jobs, who want to work or who are desperate for work. Like literally at this point, I will take anything, even if it's not in my field, even if it's not animation. I'll work at a freaking construction site. Or like I'll be some sort of like assistant or something like that. Like I'm fresh out of college, I have a bunch of free time. I'll literally take everything. And even then, there are negative connotations with taking any work you can get. Like, honestly, even though I'll take any job I can get, you shouldn't go to you shouldn't go to employers desperate, because then whether consciously or subconsciously they can sort of abuse your desperation, or they may not even accept your application because you're so desperate. And it's very odd that nowadays the job market is literally Ouroboros. You know, like the whole, I think it's like Celtic or Greek myth of like the snake eating itself into infinity. Like that's pretty much what we've reached. And it's very sad because you either need a bunch of experience to get a job, or you need to be like fresh out of college. They want like fresh out of college young people with 10 plus years of experience. So how are you supposed to get that experience if you're fresh out of college and you haven't worked before? And no matter where you go and what jobs you try to take, like you get rejected from it because you don't have enough experience. It doesn't make any sense. Honestly, the workforce nowadays doesn't make any sense. And it's self destructive, at least from what I've viewed and from what I've been perceiving. And it's kind of strange because I'm working on my own show, yet at the same time, I'm not that skilled or that advanced in animation because honestly, like, what am I supposed to do? What would what would anyone have me do? Like, I'm not getting hired because I don't have experience. And at the same time, like, I'm not getting hired because I don't have enough projects under my belt or something like that. So it's like, am I just expected to sit here and do nothing? So I'm working on my own show, so I'm doing this, so I'm building my YouTube channel. Because honestly, I have to do something. I hate just sitting around and doing nothing. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Like that's one of the few things that I actually inherited from my mom is my mom was a busybody and so I am too. I just hate not having anything to do. think I'm about to call the stream to a close. So just to go over some of my previous talking points before I go. Essentially, what I'm doing now, what this stage of animation is called, is separating the items. And essentially, what animators do is when they are separating items, they try to draw different things on different frames. So you may see an arm that's separate from the main body. The eyes and the head is usually separate from the main body. So is the hair, as well as portions of the hair. And so that is what I decided to do is I decided to separate the eyes and head from the rest of the body. And again, what animators also like to do is this this that you see here can often be considered sensory overload or ocular overload. It can affect the way you draw and sort of size and proportion things. So animators will usually hide the layer like this in order to focus on what needs focusing on and focus on what needs to be drawn and animated. Anyway, this was a fun session. It was nice to just sit down and talk with you guys, talk a little bit about how I've been doing, as well as other things like that. I have been streaming for a while, so I might as well just cut it to a close. I don't want to stream too long, and I'm thinking about maybe taking a little break. I might get either a monster or some coffee, and I'll probably animate some more off stream. Anyway, it was nice chatting. It was nice having this talk. And this has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share even. And if you want to, you can press the bell for notifications. Anyway, I'll see you guys in my next video. This has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. See ya.